a long time ago. It started through my celebrity TV show, The Basia Show. I quickly realized that my purpose was so much more than simply interviewing celebrities. I've always wanted to build a global network to elevate women, but I was afraid. So one day, I realized that I already had the platform and I just needed to be my authentic, vulnerable self. So I decided to call up some queens from around the world, and they all agreed to pull up. That was the moment we launched the Ask Basia video podcast, and we're just getting started. We're going to change this game. We're going to teach women how to treat each other and how to treat themselves right. You feel me?
Hey guys, it's your girl Basia. Welcome to the Arts Basia video podcast. If you're watching this, you know what's up. It's Tuesday, and today the topic is how to get unstuck in your life. And if you need further clarification, what this means is if you find yourself in a job that you hate, a marriage you want to get out of, relationships that you are now that are not enriching you, well, maybe this topic is for you. You feel me? And here to break it down with me are some of my queens from around the world, because I can't do it alone. I need backup. So in the center, all the way from Tanzania, but residing currently in Tampa, Florida, is Maua Moshe Alain. To the right, we have the number one therapist in Georgia. It's Dawn Townsend. And to the bottom left, I will call her the number one dentist in North Carolina. And that's Gabrielle Williams. And the number one pain specialist in all of the state of New Jersey, yes, I'm carrying on today, is Dr. Sidal Ross. And my girl is back, the number one risk executive and fashionista and fitness freak. My girl Alana Avis is in the building. Ladies, welcome.
Hi.
Thank you. I have to say, I stopped there. Like, we have no freshmen anymore. Welcome back. It's so great to have you. I was looking forward to talking to you queens all day.
All right. Thank you. Let's go.
Let's go. So, I have to break it down to you all because my queens just don't pull up. I didn't pull them from the side of the road. They're very, very decorated and educated, okay? So, we have Dr. Sidal Ross. Let me give you a bit on the screen. She's a Trinidadian American, and Dr. Ross is an anesthesiologist and pain specialist. She's a triple board certified doctor and currently practices palliative medicine in New Jersey. She's also a classically trained vocalist who uses music to care for patients living with life-threatening illnesses. Dr. Ross's podcast, Prescription in Song, is dedicated to promoting awareness of the healing potential of music and is available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We also say welcome back to Dr. Gabrielle V. Williams. Dr. Williams graduated from Hampton University in Hampton, I'm sorry, we had a little distraction, Virginia, in 2001 with a BS in molecular biology. She later graduated from UNC Chapel Hill School of Dentistry in 2005 with a DDS. Currently, she runs her own practice, Piedmont Dentistry Smiles, the same one I tell you is the number one in Charlotte, located in the university area of Charlotte, North Carolina, which was established in 2011. Dr. Williams is a member of the A.J. Williams Study Club and the Old North State Dental Society. She's married to Elijah Beatty, got it? And they have a 4-year-old daughter, Elle. In her free time, she enjoys traveling and belongs to 2 book clubs. Mrs. Dawn Townsend, welcome back. She has a MS, LPC, NCC, one of the leading licensed professional counselors in the state of Georgia, and a national certified counselor. Dawn graduated with a 4.0 GPA from Mercer University, obtaining a Master's of Science in Community Counseling, and graduated in the top 10 in her class. summa cum laude from Spelman College, receiving a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. Her knowledge is vast, having more than 15 years of clinical experience in working with children, adolescents, and adults from diverse populations. She currently works as a COO and Vice President of Hopeful Change LLC. She's a psychotherapist in her group practice and a clinical compliance specialist and behavioral assessment and mental health evaluation manager for a local mental health agency. When she's not hard at work serving in the capacity of therapist, you'll find her serving her family and her surrounding communities. Mrs. Alana Avis is from Montreal, Quebec, and she was born to Trinidadian parents. She's a cybersecurity risk executive, entrepreneur, fitness enthusiast who loves a good effortless fashion moment. She's currently building an e-commerce brand rooted in wellness, and I can't wait for that to be launched. We want to say welcome back to the African. Mrs. Maua Moshe Alain is Tanzanian. Like all the women who appear on this podcast, she wears multiple hats. She's a public health specialist who is currently serving as a senior. She got promotion, y'all. Biostatistician at Pediatric Hospital Research Department. She's also an African print designer who uses her passion for African print to change the narrative about Africa. Her work is available on YouTube under Ma Afri Styles. Ladies, welcome again to the Ask Basia video podcast. It's an honor to have you all, as usual. You know, Monday has all of a sudden become Tuesday has all of a sudden become my favorite day of the week. Slip. What I love about this podcast is that we have queens from all over the globe who pull up from different backgrounds, you know, different cultures, and our issues are the same. Today we're talking about how to get unstuck in your life. I love this topic. I'm all ears because I need help. And for that reason, we're taking a trip to Georgia, and we're starting with the queen from Atlanta, Georgia, by the name of Mrs. Dawn Townsend. I'm starting with you. Tell us, what are the symptoms that you need to look for when to even know if you're stuck in your life? Because sometimes people don't know when they get stuck. So please identify behavior and emotions associated with this feeling. I think I have some of them, to be quite honest.
I think we've all been there a time or two, right?
Yeah.
But I think, like you just said, it's important to note that being stuck is something that we may not even really notice at first, right? These are feelings that often build slowly over time, and eventually we start feeling less like we're working towards something and more like we're just kind of getting through our day to day, right? So some of the signs that could kind of tell us that we are stuck in a rut would be some of these things that I'm going to mention. Now, this is not an all-inclusive list because this is a timed podcast, so I just kind of wanted to throw a few things out there for us to be mindful of. The first one is every day seems the same, right? So if your daily activity is very monotonous and you're doing the same thing each and every day, you go to the same coffee shop, you talk to the same coworkers, you leave work at the same exact time, you know, it's just the same stuff, you might be stuck in a rut, right? If you are feeling unfulfilled, your life feels dull and boring. Like there is no excitement. There's nothing for you to look forward to. You're just kind of carrying on day to day with the same things, right? You keep reminiscing about the past. Now, this is important, right? Because it's okay for us to have nostalgic moments, right? And we think about things that brought us happiness and things that were joyous in our past. But the problem becomes that if we're stuck in the past and we're stuck on reminiscing about things in the past, we're not living in our present moment. So that's a problem. If this is happening over and over again, it can be problematic for sure. If we are not taking our health and our well-being into consideration and making it a priority. Okay, so if we're noticing that something is wrong, we're gaining weight, we are noticing that we're more irritable, we are noticing that we're more tired. If all of these things are starting to come up and you're not making your health and your mental wellness a priority, this is a problem, and this could lead to you feeling like you are stuck in a rut. Okay, I have a few more, but I think that's a good list for us to start with.
Agreed.
What do you ladies think?
I agree.
I think I'm scared. I think I'm scared. Go ahead, Dr. Ross.
Can identify with a lot of that because I have very an intimate experience with being stuck. For a number of years, I was stuck. My life was monotonous. I felt like I was just going through the motions every day. I remember waking up most mornings and saying to my husband, just right next to me, and I'm laying there and I'm saying, I don't want to go to work today. I want to quit every day. That was the mantra. As soon as I opened my eyes, right? That was just a very bleak time, a dark place. And so I identified with that. And now that I reflect on it, what I was living with at the time was the burnout phenomenon, right? And that's really what happens when you remain stuck for a prolonged period of time. You begin to experience signs and symptoms that are typical of burnout, which is essentially what you described, Dawn Townsend, that it's just your constant same thing, different day. You feel helpless. You feel like there is no possibility for change.
Right.
You feel like, there really is nothing to look forward to. And it just puts you in a deep, dark place. And even though this was happening to me professionally, and I thought that it was just my professional life that was being affected by this, when I really took a close and honest look at myself and my life, I realized that this was affecting all aspects of my life.
Talk to them, Dr. Ross.
Yeah, people feel that, my job life sucks, my work life sucks, but everything else is fine. So I guess it's okay. I'll just stay in this meaningless job, this job that is bringing me no joy, no satisfaction. And it'll be okay. But that is far from the truth.
Absolutely.
Do we have anybody else who wants to confess their sins before me?
Confession.
I was right there, same exact situation, with work, but it's very scary when you're in that position because that's all you know. So then, although you want to move forward, get unstuck, etc., then you're like, how do I do this? What's next? Especially for me in my career, that was my identity. This job, this position, these people. So it was, I ended up doing it, but it was years, and I was not a good friend by any means at all during that time. I was like like what she said, I think everything is very cool and it's the same and normal, but post me getting out of that situation, my friends were like, no, you weren't cool.
Wow. Dr. Ross, can you relate to that?
Of course. A number of people have told me within recent times that I just seem so much lighter and brighter.
I'm like, who is she?
That I actually want to go out more. I want to interact with people more. I want to socialize more.
I like this you better, and I've known all of you
me
all
too.
your life. Like I am like you. I used to feel as though I had you popping. Now you have me popping, right? It's like, yeah.
I like myself more, and that's where it starts.
Yeah. Let's hear what an African has to say about this, because she's always very bubbly.
No, I can totally relate. I'm thinking, I'm trying to see, okay, how much time do we have? Because I have so many instances. I'll tell you of the latest one, which I think when I reflect, I was the proudest of being able to come out of it. And that was after having 3 children. So some bit of weight was just not coming out. And when you're feeling like you're not feeling like yourself, and it took some time. I didn't realize that was what was bothering me for the longest time. My youngest is 6 years old. So which really took 6 years to get rid of that little bit. And that took like a month of changing my diet. And after that, I felt like a whole different person. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exciting.
After this broadcast, please send that diet to us.
It was kind of, I think my experience always been very extreme. And so it was like, okay, nothing is working. You just have to fast, go on like a month of juice fast. And everybody was so scared for me because they're thinking, oh my God, how are you going to survive? And I say, one day at a time. I really need to do this because I'm not feeling like myself. And of course, I went one day at a time, and sure enough, I survived it. It was the best thing. And then I think my lesson from it, it was my family was watching me. So my children learned from it. My other family members after that, they were like, oh my gosh, let me try and do and modify however much I want to do. And so even it inspired others. So that's why I'm really excited that when we get unstuck in certain moments, like what you're sharing, Basia, like people observe us and they see the progress from where we were to the new us. So that was really exciting.
Yeah. And what about you, Dr. Williams? Can you identify with being stuck?
I think I absolutely can. So, I recently, I kind of always had this thing that happened to me that I didn't really talk about because it was just, I don't know, I didn't feel comfortable talking it out. It's just like Sunday night, like right before I went to bed, I would just get all of these like thoughts, and it would be so hard for me to rest. And like Sunday is supposed to be the day of rest, and like my mind would just be, going 100 miles an hour, and I would just be anxious about the upcoming week. And so only until recently did I like come across an article, and there's like a name for it. It's called the Sunday Scaries. Well, I knew that there was something kind of going on and that I needed to make a change when it was like during those times that it's like worse. So like instead of just Sunday night, it like kind of like Sunday afternoon. And so it made it so that I couldn't enjoy my Sunday because I was anxious about the week ahead and what was going to happen and things like that. And so once I kind of identified it, or my husband helped me to identify it because, my mood was not the same. And, I made a few changes, and it's still something that, happens to me because it happened for so long that I, just thought it was like a normal part of, Sunday night. But what it has taught me is that like when it's particularly bad, that I need to kind of check into like what's going on. Why do I have all this anxiety, and to try to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you all sharing. I mean, I think we've been so conditioned to believe that we must keep a stiff upper lip, that for those of us with British orientation, that was properly handed down to us as women. As women, you need to get yourself together, make sure you powder and rouge and look cute and zip it, right? And we don't realize how that transcends for all of us. And I'm talking from personal experience because I've been stuck many times. I mean, for somebody who's been through some of the traumas that I've been through, from breast cancer to autism, still dealing with autism with our son, I think that got me stuck the most because breast cancer, I didn't see it as something to hold me back. But the devil is a liar. And when he tried with my child, I saw it as something that would hold me back, and that got me stuck for many years. As much as, in the public eye, I was doing stuff because I have to do stuff. But was I doing the stuff I wanted to do? Was I my authentic self? No, I wasn't. And most of all, before I go on, in fact, I will go on. I will ask this question because it's one thing to know that we've all experienced it, but I want to go back to Dawn Townsend to talk about the common reasons women get stuck in their lives. I mean, I know some of mine, but I think it's important that we ask the why, so that women out there listening on this podcast right now, watching, could identify if they are going through this. Because if I'm to be honest, I didn't realize I was stuck initially. I thought I was having a bad day. I thought it might have been my husband being irritating, or my children being irritating, or somebody else being irritated. I didn't come to me first, being the person, It was the things on the outside before I got very honest with myself. So, Dawn Townsend, tell us common reasons women get stuck in their lives.
Yeah, and I think you made a very valid point in what you just said. I think first and foremost, it's necessary for us to realize that we're even stuck in the first place, right? So before we can go on and identify what those things are, we have to be aware of the fact that we're stuck. And I think a big problem for women is that we kind of minimize our stuckness, if you will, even though that's not really a word.
I like that word though for this platform. We own in that, our stuckness.
Stuckness, right? And it's counterproductive for us to really make a change. So that's important. And I call this person, you need a person in your life that constitutes as a mirror. And I don't mean a mirror like for yourself to see yourself, but I mean a mirror, a person that you trust, a person that you love, a person that you can believe what they're saying to you is honest and valid information to give you that feedback. Okay. I think in addition to the things that I've just stated, I think the number one thing is that we put everyone else before ourselves, right? So we don't take the time that we need to take for ourselves. And self-compassion is one of the best things that you can do for your mental wellness, right? So it's important for us to take a self-assessment. You know, how well are we sleeping at night? How well are we eating? How much time are we spending engaged in our social relationships, people that feed back into us, our spirit, socially, emotionally, physically, what those things look like for us, because that's important to have physical wellness along with your mental wellness, right? Because they go hand in hand. I also think perfectionism holds us back and it keeps us stuck because as women, I am so guilty of this. I have been fighting perfectionism all of my life, and I had
everybody here.
I think so. I think so. And it kind of bleeds into all areas of my life, right? If I'm being totally honest. But it is very difficult to sustain what that looks like over time. So it's important to kind of give focus to completing a task instead of focusing on it being perfect, knowing that you put your best effort and your best foot forward to doing what it is that you were attempting to accomplish instead of it just being about perfectionism. And I think another thing that kind of keeps us stuck is having the same routines, right? Like I was kind of speaking about earlier, we kind of go through this monotonous routine of doing the same things with the same people all the time. So it's important to start and strike up new conversations with people that you may not regularly talk to. You know, speak to a different coworker at work or speak to a different person in the park that you may have never seen before that's playing with your daughter or your son at the park. It's important for us to kind of change those behaviors. In the same effort, trying something different and trying something new. Sometimes we get so stuck on not learning new things and just consistently doing the same things over that we know that we like, but we're kind of scared to try something new. So that's also important. And being spontaneous can also go along with those. You know, doing something that you wouldn't necessarily typically do, but it's the spontaneity is getting you out of that typical routine, and that can keep you from being in a rut. The last thing I want to say is spending time outdoors. There has been a lot of research that is related to how the outdoors benefits our mental wellness, not just because we're getting direct sunlight and vitamin D from the sun, but also because research has discovered that being in nature has a positive impact on our brain. Right. So from one study, it found that taking a walk outside reduced the self-referential rumination, which is a behavior that can increase symptoms of depression. And basically self-referential means the cognitive process of which we take information from our external world and give it back to ourselves. Right. And then rumination, most people know that it's just the repetitive distressful thoughts that we kind of repeat in our mind over and over. And these are symptomatic of depression. So there are levels to these things, right? So, and there are severity levels to these things. So some of these things are just basic things that we're stuck in a rut. But if you're noticing that things are being pervasive and they're happening over long periods of time, and for the frequency is increasing and it's happening over a consistent period of time, you know, it's time to talk to a professional, a healthcare professional.
And I so endorse that. I mean, we were raised, and I want to go back to perfectionism, right, ladies? Because this was so startling to me. I didn't really connect the dots, but I was reading remember Radical Awakening by Dr. Shefali, the recent book, which I love. And she talks about where perfectionism comes from in women, because in childhood, we're so afraid of being punished. So our brain connects punishment. Like if I'm perfect, I won't be punished.
Right.
And if I'm being honest, when I reflect on my upbringing, punishment is not necessarily or only, in my opinion, flogging. It's also ridicule. It's also just anything that threatens your emotional and psychological. And if you feel as though that's trauma for you, or you're afraid of it as a child, and I know for sure that when I heard that's where my love affair with perfectionism started. I wanted to be so perfect that I wouldn't be ridiculed, or they wouldn't say a bad thing about me, or they would beat me. Or, well, listen, people are always going to find something bad to say about you, even when you think you are perfect. So I found that out the hard way as well. I don't know if you agree with that, counselor, if you are in agreement with that bits of information shared in that book that I read, but I felt a connection with those words. And I'd go back to you, and then of course go to the other ladies to see if they can identify.
Yeah, I think absolutely. In short, I mean, clearly it's something that is kind of ingrained in us. And like you were saying, that it keeps us from being berated. It keeps us from being punished or ridiculed, and it keeps us from having to suffer consequences that could possibly come from not being perfect. So absolutely.
Wow. Alana Avis, can you associate with the link with perfectionism and punishment?
Not really. I don't I guess because of my upbringing, honestly,
Correct.
my parents,
Yeah.
What I will tell you was never about being perfect. What my parents really instilled or ingrained with me, which might translate into where it was, is everything is, I'm going to use a non-word, fixable, right?
Okay.
So for my parents, basically, there was nothing that could not be fixed, changed, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess in that respect, it's perfectionism. But for me, it's always every time something happens that to me seems unsurmountable or it's problematic. I talk to my parents and I'm like, what's the problem? You can fix it, it's good. Just do X, Y, Z. And I'm just like, so that is a little bit of.
I think that's different from perfection, though.
It's different, yeah.
Yeah. So perhaps you don't have that particular issue as much as others would, Dr. Williams, can you associate with that? Can you make a link between upbringing and your desire to be a perfectionist?
Yeah, I definitely think that, and maybe there's an aspect of that being a cultural thing, kind of the seeking of perfection, and I'm always being reminded and have to remind myself to kind of do a little bit more about enjoying the process of like doing everything, like even if it's like motherhood, as opposed to trying to get it right, because it's actually impossible to get it right. Like there is no right answer. To just kind of enjoy it as you're going along and to be present. But in your mind, especially, just depending on what kind of person you are, you're just accustomed to there being an answer for something. And sometimes there's just no answer. Sometimes if you do A, it's the right thing. And sometimes if you do B, it's still the right thing. It varies from kid to kid. And so that's one of the things that, motherhood has kind of helped me understand, is that for some things there just isn't a right answer. And I'm so accustomed to saying, no, there's a way to do this. Like, there are books that I can read. There are, to kind of help guide you. But as far as doing it perfectly, no one does.
Yeah. And I want to make a point, because when I talk about upbringing, it's not directed to our actual parents. It's direct because somebody raised them to. It's directed to the fact that we have to analyze what no longer works for us as parents. And and what wasn't good enough for us as children. And it's just a matter of making that change, because if you are a human being who feel that everything you have experienced has not had an impact on the way your mind works, or then you might be special, because everybody's experience prior has led to now. And when we have the ability to be honest about that and to face that, and we become better, not worse. So I just wanted to touch on it. I don't know if any one of the ladies wanted to say anything quick before I move on to the other topic regarding perfectionism. Dr. Ross, that smile tells me that you have something to say.
No, I know nothing about that. That doesn't relate to me at all. I've never had to deal with that issue.
I figured.
I mean, that was me. That was my life.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and for me, the motivation was praise.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. So it wasn't necessarily avoiding punishment, but it was seeking praise and validation.
I'm glad you raised that, because I never thought about that. Yeah. Okay.
Because the better I performed at a task, whether it was at home or at school or anywhere, the more I was celebrated.
Nice.
And so I kind of became a junkie, like a praise junkie, just constantly seeking that.
Yeah. Wow.
And the problem with that, I realized later on, was that you end up, when you live like that, you kind of end up living other people's lives.
Preach.
Because then they place expectations on you that you probably wouldn't have placed on yourself if you had the opportunity to kind of do your own thing and explore your own interests and do the things that you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And so that too, later on in life can really lead to a rut
and breakdown,
and a dark place.
Yeah, I'm glad you raised that because I didn't even think about that. Yeah, go ahead, Alana.
No, I was going to say that's very true, because you asked me about perfectionism, but when she explains that situation, I mean, I've been in corporate America since 17 years old. Yeah. So my the sense of perfectionism and want to be perfect was really in the workplace.
Career-wise.
My thing, and I became a praise junkie, basically, right?
I like that too. You see how my queens are bright? Oh my God.
It's very true. Like you just get, and you're really satisfying other people's desires, needs for the most part. You know what I mean?
So you end up living for them because you just want that next praise that, it's like the championship ring. you just go into a team because you won the championship ring. Aline, do you have anything you want to add to that before I move on?
All I can say, all this information is gold. I wish I had learned all these things before, and I can totally relate to the praise part, the affirmation part, and the upbringing that you were mentioning, avoidance. Avoidance. And the sad part for me is it's like sometimes when I start to see glimpses of that in my children, because I'm trying to break those chains so that it doesn't transfer over, I address them, because I know what that feels like to be, seeking and getting stuck in the end when you don't receive that praise. Or affirmations, to be able to almost like self-regulate instead of feeding from other people.
And this is why I tell people that they need to listen and watch this platform, because when my queens pull up with facts and vulnerability and authenticity, it don't get better than this, because we walk away learning from each other every week. And I hear from listeners and viewers who adore you guys, and they share. Some of them, they make comments, but others, they message me directly, because we always bring 100 to the Ask Basia video podcast. Let's move on. There's so much more I could say about that, but I endorse everything that you've said so far. I feel as though we were raised, just to continue on upbringing, I feel as though we were raised to get stuck for the reasons mentioned as women, when we were not encouraged to do what we love. So that's another part that I can identify with, right? I think if you were someone who it just so happened you always wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer, then that's fine. You're not going to experience what some of us have experienced. But in my time, where I came from, which was not too long ago, You know, if you did not tell your parents or your guardians that you wanted one of those boxes, doctor, lawyer, then you're essentially a dunce. Like, life, you would swear that nobody else contributed to the economy. Like, you know, like, who would be in the hospital besides the doctors? Who, you know, who would be in the police force? Who's going to guard you? Who's going to do you? If you did not fall into that framework, you had no ambition. That is not the case now, but I'm telling you, back then, where I came from, it was kind of like that. And recently, I saw someone saying this on TikTok, and that's what I love about TikTok. It's so inspirational for the most part, and I take what I want out of it. And this guy was speaking, and he said something like this. I'm just summing it up. He says, "Stop focusing on what your career will pay you and start focusing on the joy and fulfillment it will bring you." And I felt so understood for a moment. You know, I feel career-wise, many of us get stuck because we're trying to fit into a box that was not made for us. You know, in Dr. Ross's case, she alluded to following praise, you know, getting addicted to praise. So she could have ended up in a box that was made for her. Some of us are born entertainers, so we have no business working in the bank. You know, we want instant financial gratification, and we want to please a parent or a spouse. The answer will surely be no. You know, even if you are not good at a sport, even you cannot become a professional athlete unless you really, really work hard. I like to liken the experience of athletes. People see athletes when they make it. They don't realize that athletes work for at least 19 years before they make it. We only know about Serena Williams and when they're making money, but nobody was paying attention to when Richard had them on the tennis court when they were broke. And I remember when I just met my husband, he said to me, I was so fascinated by his idea of a career. And I said, do you feel as though you work? And he said, no. I said, and many years later, I got it because he worked for 19 years. Well, he's been playing cricket for like about 2 or 3, right? For his reward. And I'm like, look how many of us, we want to make money. We're not thinking about fulfillment and joy. And I said, so did you realize that this sport will eventually pay you a lot of money? He said, I wasn't thinking about that. I wanted to just play cricket. I said, so from when because I'm fascinated being raised a different way. I said, so when you were in school, you were just thinking that you want to get out of class to go play cricket. When I talk to our football friends who are football professionals, guys like Stern John and all them, they say the same thing. They weren't thinking about money and they were thinking about the joy of playing the sport. My point is, if we were to think of the joy of playing the sport of life, a lot of us would end up getting our rewards because we put our passion and our heart and soul into it. And that's what made me start this podcast. I wanted to change and reprogram women. I wanted us to start to put our heart and soul into living and being happy and clearing up our mess. And when we switch and we reprogram, that's when the magic happens. So I want to ask every one of you ladies, starting with Maua Ale, let's go to Africa and come back. Are you doing what you love?
Wow.
And I want facts. I don't want to. Don't waste my time today.
I will not.
Okay.
I will tell you this. I feel, to be honest, that where I am, I love mass, but I also love African fashion. So it's amazing. I believe God is directing my path, and I'll be very honest with that. But it seems like the opportunities that are open up are within these 2 things that I enjoy the most. So far, I am loving what I'm doing. And I am learning not to get stuck, because I learned that lesson. I was stuck before in what I was doing. And I'm loving the ability to switch from what I'm doing during the day to what I'm doing in the evening, because that becomes, I can just, put all these ideas in my mind about designs and what to do. And the greatest joy, I'll share this because I think it's just a blessing, is that I'm able to involve my 6-year-old who just gets excited about what I'm doing in my AfriStars. So I said, hey, this is amazing. So I know for now where I am loving everything.
Okay. Good for you. And that's excellent to hear. Dawn Thompson, do you like what you do? I'm sure your job is very hard. You suck up a lot of our mess.
I do suck up a lot of mess. But I love what I do. I wholeheartedly love what I do. And I honestly feel like the Lord has given me a purpose. And it brings me a passion and a focus to help people in ways that otherwise they wouldn't have been helped. I think likewise, synonymously, I have a passion for my husband, and I mean that in the best way possible, because my husband brings out the best in me. So when we're working together, because we have a business together, and when we are together, that's when I feel my best self. That's when I feel like I am the safest. That's when I feel like I can really give my most creative self, my best foot forward. So I'm looking forward to us getting back to, there was a time to where we worked together all day long, obviously before we had children. But we are getting to a stage to where we are getting back to a place that we are able to spend more time working together throughout the day. So
that's wonderful.
I'm looking forward to that.
So you are on that path that you want to be on. Yeah. Alana Avis, my favorite Canadian.
I'll be honest, I'm not quite happy where I am. I've been transitioning over the last 3 or 4 years. So I'm kind of a little bit in the middle. I'm happy on where I'm headed. So, but I'm quite not there yet.
So you wouldn't define yourself as being stuck right now. You are on a journey. Your journey has begun.
I'm on a journey. I'm definitely not stuck on a journey indeed. So just a little bit of more perspective on that is I'm coming from, again, corporate America, running large teams. So it was really, and although I'm in cybersecurity, it was more about the team camaraderie, running teams, having relationships, etc. So now that I've moved into another phase, although I am still in the IT world, doing an e-commerce brand, what I'm lacking, what I'm missing right now is that team, that camaraderie, those relationships, because that's one of the things that I enjoy the most about working. Although I can do things by myself, I do like building up teams and people and seeing people grow along with myself. So I'm just trying to work that part out. And that comes with being kind of like an entrepreneur, which is very tough. So soon come.
We got you, Queen. What about you, Dr. Williams? Do you love what you're doing?
I do love what I do in dentistry. I love the creative aspect. I love the interacting with patients aspect. One thing that has not come easily for me is the business ownership aspect. Because actually, it's like a completely different hat. So, kind of going back and forth between the two, it becomes apparent like which one I'm better at and which one I have to work at. So, yes, I love dentistry. I don't always love being a business owner.
Okay, I got you. And Dr. Russ, do you love what you do now?
I love what I do now. Yes, I have been able to create a nice hybrid profession. That I declared when I was 6 years old. When I was 6 years old, I told my mom I was going to be a singing doctor. And so the singing part wasn't really
acknowledged.
Yeah, not really celebrated. That was kind of ignored. That I could do on the side when I had some free time, focused with medicine, getting into medical school and becoming a physician. Fine. That was part of the vision. So that was okay. But I realized later on that I had to incorporate the singing as well. That was the goal at 6 years old. That was when I clearly was really very much in touch with myself. And so that's what I've managed to do. And it has made all the difference. I really believe that I'm making significant strides along the right path.
Wonderful.
That's great.
And because
I need the hybrid. I need the hybrid.
I think I was going to say most of us need the hybrid, to be honest. When you get to a certain stage, you know, as professional women, after having kids, or even if you don't have any, you need a hybrid approach. For me, the hybrid has always really been my thing, you know, post-corporate world in the Caribbean. Unlike Dr. Williams, I love entrepreneurship. That's my thing. I love starting businesses. I'll start 5 for you, like this. That's because that's what I know. I mean, I have an MBA. That's my brain. But I don't like managing people. You see?
Oh no!
Yeah, yeah, no. I'll be good at the startups, and I'll be like, hey, that's yours. You know. So for me, but I feel every now and then I get stuck still, and that's simply because I have had to make choices for me that are not necessarily the norm for others. Like our choice of having our son do homeschooling as a kid with autism, because I realized that this is a different type of dynamics. This is what works for our family. So I've had to constantly be brave enough to make different choices in order not to be stuck. I'm not sure if I'm making sense to the entire panel. And I've had to learn to be brave enough to be my best advocate so that I would avoid being stuck continuously. You know, that training again, where you keep a stiff upper lip, or you just don't say anything because you don't want to mess with anybody's feelings. You don't want to, but then you end up, your needs are not addressed. You have to be your best advocate. You have to say what you need and believe that you just might get that. And we're running out of time because we have some other things to do. But I wanted to talk about quickly the role that therapy plays and remind our listeners and our viewers that if anything that we're saying, and I'm sure we're not the only woman in this whole wide world going through being stuck, come on now, you know, it can't be 6 of us alone. So if you have a 7 or 8 or a million out there, I want to urge you to get professional help, because that really helped me. You know, I had to get professional help over the years, and more so during the pandemic, because if you want to tell me some of y'all never got stuck during this pandemic, well, good for you. Give yourself a round of applause, because I got stuck. I was like, shit, is this work gonna end or something? Like, what's up in the, you know? And because I was so restricted and I don't do well as an entrepreneur, most entrepreneurs, people who are business-minded and risk takers and so on, don't do well with confinement. And so everything I repressed came bubbling up to say, hi, how you doing? You know, and therapy helped. You know, therapy helps when you're stuck. It really, really helps. You know, I'm a big fan of therapy. If you can't figure it out, somebody else can figure it out for you. I also wanted to ask our therapist, Dawn Townsend, quickly to help people understand the power in realizing that, okay, if you're stuck in your life, I think people who become unstuck quickly in record time, and I want you to tell me if you agree with this, are people who understand the healing power of vulnerability, because I consider that to be one of the best forms of communication, not a weakness, but a powerful strength. It's just like, you know, how we grow on the outside, we have to grow on the inside. And if vulnerability is absent, in my humble opinion, there's no growth. So when you have the ability to be vulnerable, authentic, I think you are truly able to have an honest discussion with yourself to work through these kinds of issues, because nothing is wrong with getting stuck. That's not what we're saying. Nothing is wrong with it. We're saying, like, if these are all accomplished women on this panel and other places, and they can get stuck and still ask for help, it's important that you choose to be vulnerable and find the help you need if you're going through something like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And more, you know, I think what prevents a lot of people from being vulnerable is the cruel society and cultures from which we've all come, where people are so dismissive of vulnerability and of authenticity. When they, you know, everybody wants you to powder and rouge, look perfect, suck it up. Don't talk about that. Hush your mouth. Don't tell people your business. Those are the kinds of sentiments that we've become so accustomed to. And the good news is that people already know your business, okay? They know your business more than you. So if you're stopping from, you know, if that's stopping you from finding professional help so you become better, you know, I had to say to somebody recently, going to therapy don't mean that you're weak or that you're stupid or any of the above. If you understand self-improvement, then you would process therapy accordingly. It means that you're getting better. Just like how you stop at the gas station to get some gas, or you go get an oil change, you know, and doing a regular check-in with yourself, with somebody else who has the ability to crack you open and ask you pertinent questions, actually helps you to either become unstuck or prevent you from getting stuck too many times. That's just my opinion.
And I think with that too, Basia, and what you're saying about being vulnerable, I think so often we get stuck on focusing on our enemies, right? That we lose sight and we forget about our inner me's, right? The things that we battle with inside ourselves.
Yeah.
So it becomes important to really take time to focus on what those things are so that you can heal from the inside out.
Nice way to end this part of our segment out. Let's deal with our enemies. Wow. Powerful. That's why she's the best. Ladies, you know, I just want to remind our viewers very quickly where my queens pulled up from today. Alana Avis, where you at?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah. Dr. Sidal Ross, where you at?
The Garden State, New Jersey.
Dr. Williams, where are you at?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
I was there, but actually I was in Raleigh this weekend. Dawn Townsend, where you at?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia. And Maua Moshe Alain, where you at?
Sunshine State, Tampa, Florida.
Oh, you show off, girl. You show off. And all these ladies are on social media. Their Instagram handles will be in the body of the article associated with this broadcast. You can go follow them. They are amazing. We have a few minutes for a wild card. I'm going to go to Dr. Sidal Ross. We need a wild card topic. Tell me what's on your mind today, Queen.
All right. Well, you know, we've heard a lot, I'm sure, recently about what's been happening on flights and just the disgraceful behavior, right, being displayed by passengers. I remember in Trinidad growing up, one of my teachers used to call that obstreperous behavior. Just awful, completely awful.
Yeah.
And I really just want to say to our flight attendants out there, you know, the folks who take such good care of us when we travel.
It's a stressful time for them.
That I see you.
We see you.
I pray that you stay
strong,
healthy, stay safe. You know, pray that this gets better soon, very soon.
Yeah. It's tough. It's really tough on flight attendants right now.
And they say that it's, you know, behavior. It's gotten worse, right? Especially in the midst of the mask mandate. That has made things worse.
Yeah.
Of course, they have confront passengers just choose to disobey the rules.
Yeah.
And it certainly, you know, can threaten their lives even. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's becoming really dangerous.
The lives of everyone on the plane.
Yeah, absolutely. So
get some help, people. Get some help, you know, mental health.
We see
it's a
and
crazy
then
time.
Good vibes and positive energy.
Yeah.
They're
them. So to our flight attendants on every airline all around the world, we're sending you love, positive energy. Some of us really appreciate what you do, you know?
Absolutely.
You know, ladies, it's always a good time when we get together. All good things come to an end. I really, really, you know, people, when we put these ads out, they think I'm kidding. But if they only know the chemistry we have, chemistry that wasn't here before now, that all these women pull up from all over and we just have a good time. You know, I'm grateful for it. And I thank you all for always coming with your A game and with your authentic, vulnerable self. But we gotta go because all good things must come to an end. And this is the reason we created this podcast, to bring outstanding women together from around the world. It's a revolution. I want to leave you with this. If you're currently feeling like you are stuck in your life, then you have to ask yourself if you like what you're doing or who you're doing it with. When you're able to come up with an honest answer, then you can do something about it. You'll never get stuck somewhere you don't want to be or with someone you don't want to be with. A square will most certainly get stuck in a hole. Sometimes we get stuck, and that's okay. When we stay stuck, then that is a bigger issue. And it may be time for some professional help. Authenticity brings happiness. So do you. Remember to be careful what you say about each other, because it takes one to know one. And to quote my darling son Russ, ladies, you did a great job. Remember that happiness heals. I'll see you guys. Oh, we have a hiatus next week because, you know, a girl needs a break. Yeah? But we see you all in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye, everybody.